Wow.
And then it could be anything from a treasure hunt to a quiz with buzzers to blindfold a child and let them smell the food and guess what that food is just using their sense of smell. So
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to Parenthood. Once a month on our Spotlight series, we meet a parent who's doing something remarkable, creating change, often starting right at their kitchen table or living room floor. Today's guest swapped the world of Google and Meta for the world of chopping boards and mixing bowls. And she's making a real difference in how children understand food, health, and sustainability. I'm so happy to have with me Sonam Samat, founder of Flavour Lab. She started Flavour Lab in April 2024 with one mission to teach school age children how to prepare delicious, nutritious, and sustainable food and to instill lifelong healthy eating habits and food literacy from a young age. Sonam, welcome to Parenthood Spotlight. I'm so glad you're here.
thanks, Neha. It's awesome to be here.
Let's start with you. For listeners meeting you for the first time, who is Sonam beyond the professional bio?
Um, I am who's Sonam. Sonam is a mother who loves
Mhm.
to cook with her daughter.
Wow.
And my daughter's now 7, and I've been cooking with her from probably when she was 7 or 8 months old and could barely hold a spatula. I didn't plan to cook with my daughter. I didn't grow up cooking as a child, but it just so happened because we were in a country where we couldn't hire a cook and we didn't have a nanny and there weren't grandparents around. And my husband and I love to cook together, and our daughter was on the countertop and mixing and smelling and tasting. So beyond the bio, I'm someone who is wholeheartedly enjoying motherhood and
Mhm.
specifically this aspect of sharing an experience with my daughter that both I didn't grow up having and now she has from a
Wow.
very young age.
Wow. And tell us a little about your family, your daughter, your partner, the people who make up your home.
Yeah, so I live with my husband who I met about 18 years ago, and we've
Wow.
been together for the last 13-ish years. We met in college, and with our now 7-year-old daughter,
Mhm.
Zara, and our almost 9-year-old dog, Molu. So he came
Wow.
before our daughter. So it's a small family, but we are lucky enough to be in the same city as my parents and my husband's mom. So Zara has both sets of, grandparents to see on birthdays and festivals and for sleepovers, which is something that we really cherish.
Nice, nice. And tell me, what's a regular Saturday morning or Sunday morning like in your household? Are you the pancakes and music kind of a family or quiet breakfast and books?
Saturdays and Sundays, we're a go out for breakfast kind of family on the
Oh,
weekend.
nice, nice.
I wake up at 6 a.m. because my daughter gets on the bus on weekdays at 6:45. So on weekends we like to sleep in a little bit, 7:30,
Uh-huh.
still a bit early, I guess.
Yeah.
But then yeah, we mostly don't make breakfast and we make lunches and dinners together. On weekdays, two dinners. But we go out for breakfast, and it's about once a month. It's even indulgent croissants or waffles or whatnot. So as much as I love healthy eating, it doesn't mean that we don't also enjoy eating and indulging once in a while outside.
That's beautiful, beautiful. And if I opened your fridge right now, what would I find?
What do you find in my fridge right now? Carrots and beetroots that I need to make pasta with tonight. Aloo beans that was made for yesterday that I'm going to finish up today. Mm, what else? The top shelf of my fridge is always packets of chia seeds and flax seeds and hemp
Mhm.
seeds and nuts and stuff. Um, yeah, milk and dairy.
Nice, nice. And I want to talk about your parenting journey and the kind of influence you've had in your life. Now, when you became a parent, what were some of the values you knew from the beginning that you wanted to pass on to your daughter?
Hmm. Um, honestly, I had a primal instinct to want to become a mother at
Right.
27, and I had to sort of there was this image, the societal image, especially with friends and all, that this is a little bit young.
Yeah.
And my husband and I both felt it, and
Mm.
we were both like, "But, is this too early? Are we ready for it?" And we also always knew we'd want to get a dog. So that's when Molu came in, and we
Oh.
loved that. And it did make us, right, it didn't make us say, okay, now we're satisfied. It just
Mm.
made us even more sure that we're ready to be parents of also a human baby. So not long after Molu, we got pregnant. So I don't think there was anything planned along the lines of values that I want to give to my child. But obviously, I wanted her to see a happy home,
Mm.
parents that love each other and love her, and that genuinely enjoy spending time with her and playing with her and reading with her. And we've kept that alive. Values around. Whether it's around food or around respecting others, the values that we have given her weren't pre-planned. They came more naturally and through learning and through a lot of discussion between my husband and myself as well. At nighttime when she's in bed, we were like, okay, so where are we on this? What should we
Right.
tell her as a unified force tomorrow? Because a lot of it comes in the moment where you didn't plan that something like this might happen, and you kind of still have to get through the day, and you don't want to speak against what your partner might feel.
Yeah.
So we wait for a time where we can both discuss it and then have a unified opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds very practical, to hear that. And tell me, did motherhood change your relationship with food?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I did not grow up either cooking nor really eating very healthy food. Like there wasn't as much awareness. I think every parent tries their best, and my parents absolutely tried their best to give us a
Yeah.
wonderful childhood. But when I look back, I think a lot of the food choices that were made in my home when I was a child aren't ones that we make today. So it did change, but it changed my relationship with food even before my daughter could, let's say, like talk or move or
Yeah.
be very involved. It was because I had a human being that I wanted to live longer for and eat healthier for and be fitter for, so that I can see myself at 80 still just, caring for her and her children at that point.
Yeah.
So the values within us shifted in terms of what we ate as well as how we cared for the planet that we're leaving behind for her when we became parents.
Yeah.
And we started to think about what is organic produce and what is
Mm.
the local food that we have. She was born in America, so we were like exploring what is the local food that's grown here, even if it's not what we have grown up eating,
Yeah.
and we're having sort of fruits and vegetables here. Let's enjoy that. But also, what is whole grains versus refined grains, and what does sugar really do in our bodies? We started to read a lot about all of that once we became parents, and without us realizing, we started sharing these values with her. Again, unplanned, but because there was a lot of time, and the pandemic amplified the amount of time we got with our daughter in the kitchen. It wasn't just
Yeah.
one meal a couple of times a week. It was multiple meals on a daily basis that we're making with her. And so we had that time as well as the time on the dinner tables. We'd
Right.
always eat meals together, we still do, to talk about food. So whatever we were learning, we shared with her. And I realized through that we can instill these values early on.
Right, right. And also because your journey seems to be quite organically evolved, but was
Mhm.
there a moment when you realized about cooking? Cooking with my daughter isn't just fun, it's
Yeah.
teaching her so much more.
There was. So I could see that, she enjoys cooking with us and we love having her in the kitchen. So that certainly was happening. And we encouraged that some more. And in the US, there was a kids cooking school not too
Mhm.
far away from. So we signed her up for cooking classes. Like you drop a child for a football class or a music class, we would drop her off at a beautiful studio style kitchen, and she'd spend 3 hours there and come back home proudly
Wow.
showing us what she made. It was a lot of fun. But she would come back home making things that I wouldn't consider particularly healthy. I was still happy that she's enjoying cooking and she's feeling confident about tools and methods of cooking. But it wasn't things that she would make with us at home. At home, we were making also healthier things. Um, so that's one trigger that made me wonder what would a cooking school that also prioritizes healthy food mean.
Hmm.
But I kind of didn't explore that trigger too much. The other point in time that made me say, okay, there's something here was when I was working with Google, and Google had its first round of layoffs.
Mm,
And I didn't get laid off, and nobody on my team got laid off. So it really shouldn't have affected me, but it did. It moved something in me because it made me feel a little bit replaceable. It made me think about what if I had gotten that email. My husband
yeah.
and I always knew we'll be coming back to India, but it started to make me realize, well, I could have been forced to come back to India at a time that I didn't plan versus something that I knew I was gonna make happen at a certain time and plan and sell my house there and all of that stuff, right? So it made me feel like, is this really the job I want to have for the rest of my life? It made me ask
Mhm.
bigger questions like, is the job that I have with Google even making a difference to the world that my daughter is growing up in? Am I moving the needle on anything that truly matters? And so combining those two, like the idea of I love cooking with my daughter. She loves the experience of learning cooking, but
Yeah.
this particular professional, cooking school isn't prioritizing the values that I want to give her. And also the job being questioned in terms of its meaning and purpose. They kind of came together beautifully one night in my head as, well, I could do this as a business where I
Right.
prioritize eating and also then hopefully make a difference in the world that she's growing up in.
Yeah, yeah. So you started, exploring entrepreneurship and you were already a parent. Now tell me, has your daughter in particular, that particular child, shaped the way you approach both parenting and entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship, definitely. I don't know if I would have started any sort of a business if I wasn't a parent. And I wasn't a parent of someone who thrived in this experience of cooking together with me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, 10 years ago, if you had asked me, I would say I never want to start my own business. That salary job is wonderful. It's stable. I don't have to worry about so many things. But also, I never want to build a house. And now we've done both, building a
Mm-hmm.
home and starting a business. So it wasn't in the plan. And I think parenting and becoming a mother is what made me also feel like, yeah, I think I want to start a business of my own that makes a difference to the world in a way that I would like to see because I'm a parent. And the other bit is, has this child changed the way I look at parenting? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, you hear so many stories of what children do, what parenting does to you, and how difficult it is, and the sleepless nights. And I don't think people talk enough about how wonderful it is and
Yeah.
how much joy it gives you, and how the joy always, always surpasses the tough moments. And so I think I didn't. I think this child in particular and her personality in particular has reinforced how much I tell other moms about it's just wonderful to be a mother, and it's way, way worth all the nights and all the sick days and all of that.
Wow, how beautiful. I'm so glad you said that because I feel exactly the same way. And it's just good to hear other
Yeah.
people telling the truth as it is and
Yeah.
in all its layered and nuances because it's not unidimensional. Let's just say
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And you can have absolutely extreme experiences at the same time. You might
Yeah.
be absolutely exhausted, but at the same time, you might be just so happy being with that child and all of that. So I now want to talk about your big career pivot.
Mm.
Tell us about the time where you had this high profile career in tech with Google, Meta, the works. What did you love about that chapter of your life?
Yeah. I loved almost everything about that chapter until the day that that email came out and some folks at Google got laid off. Like I truly thought I had a 20-year path ahead at Google. I went to the US to study and I studied behavioral economics, and that very naturally led me to becoming a user experience researcher, first at Meta and then at Google. I was in a very specific domain in the ads team studying human behavior around sharing data for ads and online privacy and giving consent and how people felt about targeted ads. It's very niche, but also very relevant to the tech space. Behavioral economics is a nice mix of psychology and economics. So it was deeply intellectually stimulating, and I
Right.
kept taking that intellectual stimulating aspect as this is my purpose in life. This is what I can see myself and want myself to be doing for the next 20, 30 years. I grew in my role. I, got promoted, became senior, became a manager, started hiring. Thrived as a manager, loved, mentoring and growing other individuals. And it felt like a laid out path, until that day happened where we all woke up and I had pings from colleagues saying, I'm just checking if your account is working, that means you're still an employee
Yeah.
here. It felt so bizarre that I'm getting a ping just to see if that ping lands in
Yeah.
my chat box. And again, like, I didn't get laid off and my whole team didn't get laid off, but
Yeah.
it just shifted something. It shifted something very deep, saying, and I went down these thoughts of introspection around what would happen if I got laid off, if I had that email. And the next day, my manager is telling me about how I'm up for the next promotion. So in the daily meetings, I'm still getting that positive
Yeah.
reinforcement and kick that this is the best job and I'm doing well. But at night, I'm sitting and thinking, is it really, am I just another clog in this big wheel? And they can probably function without me. And what would it mean personally to my life if something like this would happen to me or my husband? How would we deal with visa and whatnot? And I went through this spiral of initially feeling terrified that I don't know how I would deal with it, because I had my identity tied to this job. I felt so
Right.
much like I'm a user experience researcher that studies ads privacy, right? So feeling terrified to then saying, I think I'd be okay. I'm resilient. I'll find something else. I'm smart. I can get something else out of it. To a point where I had let myself explore the question of, well, what would I want to do if I could do anything in the world? I felt very lucky that I could explore that question and coming up with this idea of, I love cooking with my daughter. Can we make a cooking school that teaches children about food? So when I went down the journey of first feeling like terrified to being like, I'll do something to, oh, I almost wish I had gotten laid off, because it would have been like, here, take some severance, go follow your dream path and build a cooking school. It
Yeah.
was really bizarre going through those emotions. And then I still kept the job for a good year and a half, and I started exploring the business idea I had, found internships in the US where they were already teaching children in schools how to cook and about healthy eating through cooking,
Mm-hmm.
read their lesson plans and said, okay, I think I can do this.
Yeah. But was it scary or like nerve-wracking to leave something so established for something so completely new?
I don't think I'd use the word scary. I also had a lot of people tell me, "Oh, you're so brave," and I didn't feel brave. So those are two words that I didn't associate very. I still don't. I don't think I'd use the word scary or brave. It was high emotions for sure, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's hard to put a word to that emotion. But it was a lot of relief and joy, because like I said, I kept the job for a while, living this dichotomy of. Previously, this was my identity, my job was my goal, but now I was living this dichotomy of, I'm doing this job and it's fun, but it might not be what I want to keep doing. And I have this beautiful idea simmering in my head, and I'm exploring evenings and weekends and doing these internships. So this dichotomy, and so I think the day that I announced, and sort of then the weeks after that, it felt relief because I no longer needed to live that dichotomy. I could tell my colleagues about the idea, and they obviously encouraged me. And it also felt wonderful to get a farewell at a time where still they were having layoffs and people were finding out they don't have a job by email, versus people giving me flowers on my last day. It just felt really nice. So yeah, I don't think scary or being brave are words that I would associate.
Yeah. You talked about colleagues, but how did friends and family react when you said you were starting this new venture?
Yeah, a whole mixed bag. A lot of friends and family being super, super supportive, and finding the idea and the mission so beautiful, but also some just being confused. Are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to leave that big paycheck and that really reputable company? Even my dad, to some extent, it was like he never stopped me. He never would. He's not that sort of person. But it took a little bit of like me explaining what is it that this new idea is, a few times until and then he got it, and it's beautiful to also see how my mom and dad are changing their food habits because of what I'm now teaching the
Wow.
younger generation. So yeah, it was a mixed bag, but mostly a lot of support, a lot of encouragement, and a lot of like, I wish I could take the step that you're taking someday.
Wow. And let's talk about Flavor Lab now. For
Yeah.
someone who's never heard of it, what is it in your own words?
Flavor Lab teaches children how to cook delicious, nutritious, and sustainable food. And we
Mhm.
do this through in-person workshops. So it's very sensory and very hands-on. We have workshops where children learn about healthy eating, sustainable food practices, but through the medium of cooking. So they're always mixing and mashing and blending and kneading and smelling and tasting in our classes, or they're playing food games. So we love incorporating fun through games. I wanted to break this concept of healthy is boring, break that
Yeah.
association of healthy and boring by infusing fun into healthy eating. So in every workshop that we do, there's always a food game. We call it a snacktivity.
Wow.
And then, it could be anything from a treasure hunt to a quiz with buzzers to blindfold a child and let them smell the food and guess what that food is just using their sense of smell. So a whole range of things, but making sure that the next on my list of food games I want to build is a spinny wheel that
Yeah.
spins, and the child would spin it and they'll land on an ingredient, and we have to use that in whatever recipe we're making. So we're
Wow.
trying to come up with really fun ideas to make healthy cooking super, super fun.
Right. And why the name Flavor Lab?
A good question. So two reasons. One is the flavor in the lab. There are specific reasons. I have three words that I associate my mission with: delicious, nutritious, and sustainable. Right? It
Right.
needs to be yummy. It needs to be healthy. It needs to be good for the planet. And I wanted to pick one of those that I would prioritize for the name. And I felt like the delicious aspect should be the one that the name kind of shouts out, because the other two, I'm not worried. They will be part of they're part of our ethos. They'll be part of
Right.
every recipe, every game. And so I chose flavor because I think that is associated with something yummy. And
Yeah.
then the lab is there because every school has a chemistry lab or a biology lab, and we envision a future where every school also has a flavor lab where children
Right.
come and learn. And it's a lab, so they also experiment with foods. I want children to grow up thinking that you don't have to follow a recipe to the T. You don't even have to have a written recipe if you want to cook something. You should hopefully feel confident enough to go in and say, let me just throw a little bit of this and that and see what happens and reflect on that and make changes next time because something worked or something didn't work. And that's what experiments do.
Fantastic. Tell me about the very first workshop or class that you held. What
Yeah.
was it like? Do you remember the first group of kids you taught?
Of course, 100%. I mean, so there were three firsts for me.
Uh,
The first was my daughter and her cousins, like
mhm.
three kids. And I did my very first class with three kids at home, and it was a lot of fun. The next first was I went to culinary school, and the director of my culinary school was very supportive of my idea. And when I finished my program, he said, just as an internship, let me get you kids and
Mhm.
you teach them your lesson plans and your ideas and your games and your recipes, but let's take the pressure off you having to market and find kids. So he was very encouraging that way. So I did an internship in culinary school. It wasn't branded Flavor Lab at that time. It was the culinary schools inviting kids to do, but I did actually 10 back-to-back Saturdays.
Wow.
A lot of fun and wonderful group of kids. But the first Flavor Lab class was surprisingly a very big platform. It was at the Hyderabad Lit Fest, the Hyderabad Literary Fest, back in January. And I shot out an email, not expecting any sort of response, that said, "Hey, this is what I do, and I'd love to be part of Hyderabad Lit Fest. And, I hadn't done anything Flavor Lab at that point. So I really didn't think this would work. The last few years, they've had wonderful chefs come in and teach adults and children cooking, because this literary fest really celebrates also culinary arts. And I said, I'm not going to stand up to those, but what's the harm? And they got back and they got
Wow.
me on. And I do remember the first set of kids. We did Eat the Rainbow, and we had to work around the physical space that they had. So the kids were also going from one place where we did a discussion based learning to another physical, there was movement involved, which worked beautifully to make the food rainbow, and then coming back because the plug point was there to make our rainbow smoothie with the blender, and everyone had a great time, including me.
Wow. Wow. And this was at a lit fest, but take me inside a typical Flavor Lab session from the moment the
Yeah.
kids walk in to when they leave. What happens?
Yeah, so we serve kids in the age range of 7 to 12.
Uh-huh.
And we've done younger as well. We're open to doing like younger kids as well, but our material is perfectly suited for the age group of 7 to 12. So kids come in, and while they're waiting for other kids to come in, we have little puzzles on a piece of paper, food puzzles. So it's a word search or unjumble these words, and you're discovering food words though, like
Mhm.
the word banana is hidden somewhere in a word search. So they do that, and then we get started with a something like a warm-up exercise. So we play a game like let's all name a food item from A to Z, and they're all
Mhm.
guessing something with each letter, and they get stuck on the X and the Q, and we have something like in our back pocket that they've never heard
Yeah.
of, and so they learn about the new food. Then we get into the part that I call discussion-based learning. So
Mhm.
whatever is the learning objective of our workshop, let's say it is to teach children why it's important to eat all the colors of the rainbow.
Right.
We do back and forth discussion based learning. So there's a lot of me asking questions. Can you guess what the next color will be? And we're going through each food color group, right? So they're slowly they realize I'm going in the order of the rainbow, and they love guessing what the next
Uh-huh.
color is.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to talk about orange foods. Orange foods are good for, and then tell them they're good for the eyes, and what do we need eyes for? How they help us with vision? Why are orange foods good? And then they're guessing fruits and vegetables that are orange in color. And then we don't do screens, but we go with paper printouts. So I'm like, okay, now
Right.
I'm going to show you a page with pictures of orange foods and shout out anyone that you haven't yet guessed. And so they love that excitement of, well, I've already said carrots, but wait, there's pumpkin. Yes, pumpkin's orange too.
Yeah.
Um, so we do the discussion-based learning, and then we go into our food game or snack activity. So with the rainbow class, there's a chart paper with a rainbow drawn on it. And if it's a treasure hunt, if we have the space, we hide fruits and vegetables of different colors across the space. And then
Wow.
I said children to just go, and they go find the yellow banana and put it on the yellow band of that chart paper. And so they're finishing up their rainbow. And throughout, we're kind of talking and reminding about what each color is good for.
Mm.
And then there's the cooking experiment, so the recipe part of it. So then they get down, and we either we've done a rainbow wrap where you're putting vegetables of different colors in a chapati basically. We've done a rainbow smoothie where you're blending fruits of different colors. We've also done a rainbow rice bowl that came out really well. So they're making something with their hands again with the same theme, and again reminding themselves of, yes, I want some yellow foods because they're good for my skin, and I want some orange because they're good for the eyes. And then we do a recap, and the kids go home with a homework activity to track the colors that they eat throughout the week.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And I'm also very interested about the food labels that you talk about.
Yeah.
It can be overwhelming even for adults, How do you make that fun for children?
Yeah, food label reading is a skill that I think every child should grow up with, and I wish we had all grown up learning. It's very easy for us to say, "Well, we've been eating this biscuit all of our life, so it can't be that bad." But once you learn the skills of food label reading, you realize that actually it is, and a lot of the health issues can be attributed to things that we've been eating very casually and not realizing that they're adding up, to health concerns. So how we make food label reading fun is there are really 4 or 5 things that you need to know about how ingredient lists are ordered, and
Mm.
about names that you should of ingredients that you should be on a watch out for, what hidden sugar might be, what are the different alternative names that food companies use for sugar. So we've distilled these learnings down to 4 or 5 things, and then we've added layers of fun around it. Like one way to make it super fun is we always bring packets in class so that the kids are actually turning a instant noodle packet themselves and reading, and they're like, wait, I don't know what that is. And one of the tricks we teach them is, if you don't know if you can't pronounce it, or you don't know that ingredient, you don't have it in your kitchen, that's probably a chemical that you want to stay away from. So getting practical with actual food packets always helps. Asking them to explore in their own kitchen and investigate in their own kitchen helps, because they're putting on now my parents are buying this food and they've made some decisions, but I'm going to correct their
Yeah.
decisions, and kids taking that personality on. So those are some of the ways. I want to give a quick shout out, because I think a company that's doing phenomenal work with food label reading isn't so much Flavor Lab yet, but it is the Whole Truth Foods. They have a beautiful food label reading workshop for children, and I've worked with them and conducted that workshop in a few different cities. And they're making it super, super fun, because kids kind of then take 2 hours and it's like a whole skit where they're visiting a pretend grocery store and exploring pretend biscuit packets and chips packets. And they have a magnifying glass because they put on the personality of a food and beverage investigator. And so they're like, I'm going to zoom into this box and see what the ingredients are and catch the jhoot. And it's super, super fun. And I hope and aspire to work with them with Flavor Lab as well, and integrate that into our curriculum.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you know what I'm also very excited by? That's something that I read. I love that you include gender equity in the curriculum as well. How do you approach that in the kitchen space?
Yeah, cooking has for the longest time been a woman's job, unfortunately, in not just in India, the world over. I think it's well beyond time that we correct that. And I feel so, so proud that in our home, my husband cooks a little bit more than I do, and he's actually a better cook than I am, even if I'm the one that's gone to culinary school. And I love that our daughter sees that, right? So I
Mm.
would hope that if it is, hopefully, some of our generation is already breaking those barriers, with more men wanting to and actually going forward with being in the kitchen and helping out and cooking. But with Flavor Lab, if you think about a school where there is a physical space Flavor Lab, we're not only going to be getting girls in that room and not getting, then the boys go to sports class. That's not how it works, right? When there's a Flavor Lab class, the whole class will come
Yeah.
to this room, and boys and girls will learn just in the same way. I'm hoping to have guest chefs come in, which will be a mix of boys and girls that have made big careers in the space of culinary arts. And hopefully, so then they have a role model to look up to, that is, of both genders. And then I really hope that once that generation is older and has their own children, they've normalized it so
Yeah.
much that there are even more fathers cooking, and therefore at home as well they're getting the same exposure that we hope to give in schools to boys.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. And I want to now talk about impact on kids and families that, Flavor Lab is having or you're hoping to have.
Yeah.
Talk about what kind of changes have you seen in the children who have attended your classes or who do attend your classes?
Yeah, so obviously it's still early days, but one thing that I know I hear always is the class is super fun. So like if there's a parent listening to this, I sorry, if there's a parent listening to this, I'd really want them to understand that it's 1.5 hours of fun
Mm.
packed into this workshop. And if that is the only reason they bring their child there, that itself is enough, because the rest of it is my job.
Yeah,
But beyond that, we're really tackling so many different things around picky eating, or kids not wanting to eat enough vegetables, fiber. We hear about parents telling us that my child doesn't eat any fruits. Now, that's a
mm,
whole food group that has been eliminated from a child's diet, and it could lead to, micro deficiencies, micronutrient deficiencies. And that's something that I strongly believe we can fix with food education. I
yeah,
strongly believe that children will eat the food if they make it themselves. And therefore, children will eat healthier food if they make it themselves. And you scroll on Instagram and you see, oh, your child doesn't eat fruits, just present it to them in these cute cookie cutter shapes. Yes, definitely do that. I'm not saying don't do that. But can you imagine the impact that a child has if they're the ones taking a little heart-shaped cookie cutter and putting it into dragon fruit and realizing that it looks so beautiful when you make a little heart-shaped, slice of dragon fruit, and therefore be more open to trying it. So in terms of impact, and there is research globally that has shown this, that when children get more involved in cooking, they eat healthier foods. They're more likely to reach out for fruits and vegetables. They're more likely to influence their peers and even their parents to eat healthier
Yeah.
foods. So that's the real impact that we're going after. And then, of course, there is the awareness of sustainable ingredients as well baked into it. So what is it that grows locally here that's better for the soil health? What does organic really mean? What does ethically sourced mean in terms of food? So that we're raising a generation of soon to be adults that are food wise and aware of what the different ingredients that they put in their body do to their body as well as to the planet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And have you ever had any parent come back to you and say, my child is doing this at home now? Mhm.
Yes, so we've had parents come back and say that they loved to make the recipe that they made in the class at home, which was,
Mhm.
which is very heartwarming, and that introduced a new vegetable in their home that they wouldn't order. We made a guacamole in one of our classes, and avocado does also grow in India now. There is this
Yeah.
impression of avocado as this imported fruit. Yes, you can get the imported avocado, but it also grows locally now. And so we always buy the local variant. And we had a family come back and tell us that we didn't used to buy this. We didn't grow up eating it, so we never bought it. And now, because of you having introduced, and the daughter's the one teaching them how to mash an avocado and make guacamole. So it does happen. There's a long way ahead, though. I say I'm on day zero of a 30-year journey. And I think it's a good quality to have, where every time someone asks you, what impact have you seen? You always remember what impact lies ahead of you.
Wow, wow, beautiful. And tell me, you said, I see that the origin of your initiative has come from the family, but
Yeah.
has the initiative also changed your own eating habits as a family?
Oh, interesting question. I think becoming a parent changed our eating habits. Starting a flavor lab changed a little bit of how things happen in the kitchen, I guess. I don't know if it's for the better or for the worse, because now on our Instagram, I run a little chef series.
Uh-huh.
Video series or whatever, where I show little children cooking in their own kitchen. And it's a lot of the, submitted entries. It's a lot of like friends and family that are cooking with their kids as well. But my daughter is totally on there. And so now when we cook, I also think about, do I want to record this and then eat out of it? That's one way it's changed. And of course, I test all of my recipes, games, lesson plan ideas at home, either with my daughter or with my daughter and the neighbors. And that's changed definitely. So, but we love playing with my daughter and her friends anyway. So on any given day, if we're not in the park playing a run and catch tag game with the 7, 8, 9 year olds, then it might be that we've invited them home and saying, let's make this recipe because, auntie needs to test it for her next class.
Beautiful. And tell me, Sonam, what do you think schools and parents can do better when it comes to food education?
I think the one thing that schools and parents can and should do is get kids involved in the making of the food. And
Right.
every time you say kids cooking, the mind thinks, well, but there's fire and knives. Just for a minute, put that aside, right? Think about the times that there's washing and mashing and mixing and blending and smelling and tasting. There's so much a child can do in the kitchen without touching fire and knives. And that helps open their mind up to trying whatever is being made. So if a parent is struggling with, well, my kid's not going to eat that, so I'm making something separate for the child and separate for me, just get them in and ask them to peel whatever is going into the dish that you're making for yourself, and you hope they would be open to eating, or count it, like count the number of tomatoes that you see over here, something really basic. But in that low pressure environment where the child isn't being asked to taste it or try it or finish it, they have a different mindset towards that
Yeah.
food item. They become a little more curious and explorative, and become then that pressure kind of goes away, which makes them then be more open to trying the food and celebrate even if they taste like a really tiny amount. Congratulate them, celebrate them, thank them, because that is the start of the movement towards now it's part of their palate. So definitely getting kids involved is one step that, and I hope schools also do more of that. I want to break away from food is something that children just see magically in front of them, and
Yeah.
so the preparation is something I want to get them involved in. And then, of course, also growing the food, which actually I have to say some of the schools are doing a decent job
Yeah.
of. Showing kids a little kitchen garden or how food grows, and parents sometimes also end up wanting to take an escape into a farm, which is great for a child to see. Because a lot of times when you ask kids these days, where does food come from? They say, well, it comes from the phone
Hmm.
because you're ordering it Swiggy and then it gets delivered, right? No, food grows in the soil. It's
Yeah.
prepared with a lot of love and hard work, and then it's something that nourishes your body.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. And tell us about the vision and future plans for Flavor Lab. You've said you want to give food literacy the dignity it deserves. So, what does that mean to you?
It means that every child learns food like they learn English or maths or science. From the basics of what are whole grains and why are they better than refined grains, what are proteins, carbs, fats, what are these words? Learning it from a single source, a reputed source like a teacher, versus learning it in your 30s from a multitude of influencers on social media that are saying conflicting things about good fats and bad fats, right? So um, I want to envision a future where, and I do envision a future where children get um, a single source of verified scientific, get single source of verified scientific information about food the way they do about 2 plus 2 is always 4. You don't need to think about that as an adult, right? So that will only happen if there is a flavor lab or any sort of a food space in schools. And there's a regular cadence with which children go there and they build on their learnings. With younger grades starting with very basics, Eat the Rainbow is great for a first or second grade student, to older grades learning about the science of fermentation or bread making or what does yeast do and why does this thing kind of grow when you are trying to make bread at home, to composting and why we do that, why that's better for the planet and what happens there. And even maths can get involved, even history and culture and how food traveled the world.
Yeah,
There's so many subjects that we can learn through the medium of food, which is again why it needs to be a practical, hands-on lab space.
yeah, yeah. And 5 years from now, what's your dream for Flavor Lab?
Oh, I don't want to put a number to how many schools
Yeah.
because we're in very early days, starting to talk to schools now, which is super exciting. But I hope 5 years from now, we are in a bunch of schools across the country and touching the lives of many, many children. I hope I can sustain an in-school scaling up as well as out of school,
Mhm.
to reach more children. And I really hope to broaden the scope of finding a business model where perhaps the more premium schools help us sustain, and then we can also provide flavor lab services to the not so premium schools at a lower price, because food literacy should be something that everyone gets at school.
Beautiful, beautiful. And okay, now let's have some fun, quick fire style. What's your
Yes.
favorite childhood dish?
Childhood dish, ice cream. I ate a lot of ice cream growing up.
Flavor Lab. What flavor?
What flavor? Oh, I used to have this really hodgepodge flavor. It was a banana and strawberry ice cream, and I would top it up with chocolate sauce. It was very
Wow.
junky. I couldn't eat it now. But my daughter also has developed a preference for less sweet things because of the way we eat, and even she would probably find that extremely sweet. But I loved it as a child.
Wow. And one cooking skill every child should learn.
Oh, one cooking skill every child should learn. Hmm. I think older kids should learn how to hold a knife and chop.
Hmm.
I know parents worry about knives and fire, and with younger kids, we always do no fire, no knives. But your child, if they're playing sports, they're going to hurt their knee at some point. So there is going to be
Yeah.
a little bit of injury, and you kind of expect that and still want it. So same way, I think in a safe space with the right supervision, I would love to teach eighth, ninth graders how to hold a knife and properly chop. So they're not they're not learning it the way I did from YouTube and trying to like work my way around and probably hurting myself more than I would have if I had learned it the right way.
Yeah. On that note, a kitchen disaster story.
Oh, so many. I have like I would say about a 70% hit rate. I love trying new recipes and making my own additions and my own flavor twist to it. And 30% of them don't work out. I made a birthday cake for my sister-in-law once. Of course, made it healthier than the Instagram video showed. So added a little bit too much of other stuff, and it was quite dense and not pleasant. And you know what?
Sonam, you have frozen.
Oh, I
Sorry.
think I lost. Are you back?
Yeah, yeah. I think I lost you and you lost me. I don't know what happened, either of those. But yeah, you were telling us about the cake that you made for your sister-in-law, made healthier than it should have been.
Yes, and it didn't taste all that nice. It was the taste was okay. The texture was not on point. So we spun it around to save the cake, and we tried breaking it up into pieces, and we blended it with some milk, and it actually became a really yummy smoothie. I know it sounds weird, but if you have a very dense cake and you blend it up with milk, it is a very indulgent, creamy smoothie, and you could put protein powder if you're having protein supplements, and it was really yummy as a smoothie. Not so good as a cake.
And one ingredient you can't live without.
One ingredient. I think garlic. We're a garlic loving family. Garlic bread, we put it in pesto in all of our dishes.
Beautiful. And one question, apart from food, a parenting hack you swear by.
Reading to your children at bedtime and really being there. Like no phones, and don't make it a rush thing. If you need to start bedtime 30 minutes early so you get a relaxed bedtime, and you can actually enjoy the stories. And if they ask for one more story, just give it to them, That's a parenting hack we've kept for the longest time, and I hope I can keep it for many, many years to come.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we are coming to an end to our conversation, Sonam, for today at least. If you could give one piece of advice to parents who want to cook with their kids or who
Yeah.
want to cook more with their kids, what would it
Yeah.
be?
So it's a great question. I think have a dish in mind, have some preparation done so that you're not overwhelmed because children tend to have a little less patience in the
Hmm.
anywhere and definitely in the kitchen where if you're like, wait, let me go get something, you might end up feeling like this isn't there's a mess and there's something dropped and whatnot. So a little bit of preparation about what's the dish we're going to make, what are the parts of it that I would rather do beforehand? And it's okay if you feel like let's do some chopping beforehand because my child is too young and I don't want them wanting to use the knife and then I have to teach that. But if they're older kids, I'd strongly encourage that as well. So, keep some things prepped. And I think kids also love when they walk into the kitchen and it's like a game where like, look, I've chopped all of these, ingredients for you. Now you're going to make it. And then let them decide, what to put and give them some guidance and let them make them feel like they're active in the recipe decision making. So if they're like, can I put some of that? Yes, let's try some of that, or let's put a little less, whatever your preference is. So yeah, keep a little bit of prep done and let it be a little free flow as well.
I love how you speak about food because it's so evocative. Like, I could really, when you were telling me this, I could really picture myself in the kitchen with my son standing over there and both of us deciding what to cook and put little pieces and, all of that. So I really, really love how visual and evocative your articulation is. And Sonam, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, your warmth, your vision with us today. You're showing us that cooking isn't just about recipes, it's also about connection, values, and change. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Neha. It's been wonderful talking to you, and I've loved your podcast. So thank you for inviting me to it.
Thank you. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this spotlight episode of Parenthood. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share with a friend, subscribe to the show, and leave us a review. Until next time, here's to raising children and raising change.